Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're going to try to build an understanding of a totally new kind of AI. I mean, one that's designed not just to give you answers, but to actually think with you. We're going to deconstruct the architectural blueprint for an AI called Sophia.
All right, let's start with this quote because it's really the core mission. And I want you to pay super close attention to those last few words. Enhance human judgment rather than replace it. Now think about that one phrase. It's a huge departure from what most AI is trying to do today, which is basically automation, right? Replacement. This is all about partnership.
So, how do you even build an AI like this? Well, here's the plan. We're going to walk through this 6-part blueprint. We'll kick things off with a big idea, then get into the rules and how they're actually enforced. After that, we'll see how it works as a teacher, and then, wrap it all up with a whole new philosophy for AI.
Okay, first up, why? Why do we even need a different kind of AI? I mean, aren't assistants good enough? Well, to answer that, we've got to challenge that whole idea of AI as just an assistant. We need to really dig into the specific problem Sophia was built to solve.
And this slide, this really gets to the heart of it. Let me put it this way. You know how a normal AI might just write an essay for you? That's just task completion. Sophia, on the other hand, is designed to help you brainstorm better arguments, to make you question your own assumptions, and to help you structure that essay yourself. You see the difference? It's not an author, it's a thinking partner.
Okay, so if it's a partner, what stops it from, well, just taking over? And that brings us to the absolute bedrock of this whole system, its constitution. And listen, this is not just some list of friendly suggestions. No way. These are hard-coded rules that govern every single thing the AI does. And here they are, the 4 non-negotiables. First, protect human authorship. That means no ghostwriting, period. Second, it's got to be honest about where its information comes from. Third, and this is a big one, it can never pretend to be human. And last, and this is really the kicker, it has a pedagogical responsibility. All that means is its core job is to build your skills, not just to do the work for you.
So why does this matter so much? Because it means safety and ethics aren't just some optional filter you apply at the end. Nope. They are the core operating law of the system. They are literally baked in from the ground up.
Okay, but a constitution is just a piece of paper if you can't enforce it, right? So this next layer of the architecture is where we see how these rules get some real technical teeth. This is all about turning those laws into actual reality within the system's design.
And check this out. This shows how that enforcement isn't just a vague promise. For instance, you see kernel policy controls. Think of that as the system being able to block a forbidden action at the most fundamental level. It's like having a security guard at the main gate, not just a please don't enter sign on the door. And hardware attestation, that's like a tamper-proof digital seal of authenticity. So you see, these aren't polite suggestions for the AI. They're actual physical and digital locks built right into its core.
All right, so we've got the rules and we've got the enforcement. Now we can get to the part that makes Sophia really, truly unique. Its role as a teacher, as a partner in your learning.
But that brings up a really important question, doesn't it? I mean, it's easy to throw around a word like pedagogical. But what does that mean? How does an AI actually teach instead of just telling? How does it adapt its support to what you actually need to learn, right here, right now?
Well, the answer is that it has different modes it can switch between. So instead of just writing a paragraph for you, it might use something called scaffolding, basically giving you a template to help you organize your own ideas. Or it could start a critical dialogue where it asks you tough questions, poking holes in your argument so you can make it even stronger. In every single case, the goal is mediation over substitution. It's about helping you think, not thinking for you. Huge difference.
But think about this. To be a good partner for us, to help us learn, the AI has to have its own sense of judgment first, right? It's got to know what it knows, and just as importantly, what it doesn't know.
And the way it does this is through this really fascinating internal process called the assessment ecology. The best way to think of it is like it has this multi-layered self-review. It's a whole conversation it has with itself before it ever gives you a response.
So instead of just, spitting out an answer with a simple confidence score, the AI runs this whole internal checklist. First, it diagnoses your question. It asks itself, is this person confused or are they just looking for a quick fact? Then it decides what kind of support you actually need. After it comes up with a response, it checks that response against its own constitutional rules. And then, and this is so important, it reflects.
It asks, did I go beyond what I actually know here? This whole multi-step process is what separates confident-sounding garbage from genuinely helpful, grounded information. Now, a really key part of this self-judgment is this thing called ipsative assessment. I know, it's a fancy term, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. It just means the AI measures its own improvement over time. So instead of asking, how do I stack up against other AIs, it's asking, was I better at helping this person today than I was yesterday? It's this focus on internal growth, not just external benchmarks, that lets it genuinely learn and get better at its job.
Okay, we've seen all the individual parts, right? The constitution, the enforcement, the teaching. Now let's put it all together. Because when you stack these layers, they build into a completely new philosophy for what AI can and maybe should be.
Principle number 1, governance before generation. It's simple. Rules come before results. The AI's ethical boundaries, its constitutional rules, all of that has to be checked before it's allowed to generate even a single word. See? Safety isn't a filter you add later. It's step 1. Second principle, verification before confidence. In other words, no unearned confidence. If the AI is going to make a factual claim, it has to check its work before it presents that info to you as if it's a sure thing. This is designed to fight that huge problem we all hear about, AI hallucination.
Third, pedagogy before substitution. This brings us back to that core idea: its default mode is teacher, not doer. The system is literally programmed to always ask itself, how can I help this person think better, not how can I just do this task for them?
And the last principle, assessment as system logic. This just means that whole complex self-check process we talked about, that's not some feature they tacked on at the end. It's the fundamental logic of the entire system. It's a core mechanism for its own diagnosis and its own growth.
And that really brings us to the biggest takeaway from this whole blueprint. The reason you can trust an AI like this isn't because it sounds smart or because it can politely say no to a bad request. Trust comes from its architecture. It comes from its proven, built-in ability to diagnose a problem, provide the right kind of support, and actually learn and get better over time. So this whole blueprint really leaves us with one last powerful question to think about. We're all obsessed with making our AIs smarter and smarter. But what if the real goal isn't just smarter machines? What if the goal is a smarter humanity supported by those machines? If we built AIs not just to be smarter, but to make us smarter, well, how would that change the world we're building?